Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajim. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. Dear students, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the new session. In this session, we are going to discuss the plot construction in your novel Twilight in Dehli. Dear students, a plot is the main string of the story, and it holds the subplots in a way to create an impact of a cohesive whole. The plot of this novel has the main story of the love affair of Asghar and Bilqis and the confrontation between his father and son. But there are many other subplots interlinked and intertwined with the main story as neatly as to create an impact of wholeness and cohesion. Dear students, as you know very well, that a plot is the background idea that provides the mainstay of the story. It is the message, it is the main thing the writer holds on to while writing and picking the events and interlinking and connecting them to the main story of the novel. A novel is a longer version of a story. It surely has smaller pieces, or you may say the subplots, to be interconnected and intertwined and connected time and again according to their sequence and according to their importance in the story to make the story look like a whole. Ahmad Ali has surely used the same pattern of general pattern of a novel. He has got a main story in his hand and he then knits different subplots with that main plot to create an overall impact of wholeness, cohesion, compactness. That is to make the story look like a single story with the help of descriptions, with the help of character portrayals, and so on. Dear students, Ahmad Ali has knit his plot and all his subplots in such a beautiful way that the overall impression of the novel is just like a motion picture. It is indeed a marvelous achievement. It seems a visual picture of that period that he has presented in shape of his story and his sub stories. Ahmad Ali's Twilight in Dehli is a marvelous novel. It brings before our eyes a true motion picture of how the Muslims of the subcontinent used to live their religious, social, cultural, single and collective lives during the tumultuous years of 1857 to 1919, the period the novel is about. Another important thing to note is that Ahmad Ali shows us all the positive as well as negative aspects of the Muslim cultural life of the subcontinent at that very moment of history. So there is no taboo binding the hands of the writer to omit this or that part of the life or the details of the life at that time. He presents life as a whole in all its aspects and colors, as he has himself witnessed and observed this type of life during these years. The details of Mehru's marriage, for example, marriage with Miraj, the son of Bhopal millionaire, added with the details of Mushtari Bai and Baban Jan, provide ample proof in this respect. We also find details of two pastimes that were very popular at those times among the gentlemen and others. Pigeon flying and kite flying, they are. There would be only a few such cities in the world which have become living landmark in the history or civilization of the world at large and of the related country in particular, as Delhi has been presented by Ahmad Ali. Delhi, as a center of all cultural, social activities of the community presented here in the novel, stands as a city, as a representative city of the land of subcontinent indeed. Dear students, the plot construction of this novel is also very significant and important from the viewpoint that it is indeed an eyewitness account by the writer himself. He was rather a participant. He was rather a part of that culture. He was rather a part of that ongoing onslaught of the British imperialist rulers onto the local culture and civilization. That is why the plot construction as an eyewitness, as a participant, makes it more uh, effective, more interesting, more significant for us as readers. He seems, although he stands aloof, he stands aloof as a writer, but still he is part of that game being played in the subcontinent between the locals and the foreigners. And this is the story, this is the plot which makes it interesting and enjoyable for the readers. Writing about the city of Delhi, Ahmad Ali himself says, destruction is in its foundations and blood is in its soil. It has seen the fall of many a glorious kingdom and listened to the groans of birth. It is the symbol of life and death indeed. Ahmad Ali has seen the lanes, by lanes, and streets of Delhi with great affection. So Ahmad Ali has drawn a detailed picture of the life going on in these lanes and by lanes during the last years of the 19th and the earlier years of the 20th century. The life is the true representation of the decaying Indian Muslim civilization during the period here referred. Dear students, as you can note during the study of this whole novel, the detailed picture presented by Ahmad Ali is an eyewitness account. He presents life as he sees it, as he observes it. Therefore, it is a living commentary. You may say that the plot construction here is a living commentary on the events, on the happenings, on the on the way the life is there, indeed, in Delhi and in the whole of the subcontinent. You may say that Ahmad Ali has presented life as he sees it. It is the actual representation of life all around him. Therefore, it is realistic. It is it is near to life itself. It is the real representation, the actual life representation of the life in reality all around him. And dear students, then another feature of the plot of this novel that attracts us as readers and critics of this novel is its well knit story and brilliantly constructed plot of the novel. Ahmad Ali's Twilight in Dehli is a very well knit and brilliantly constructed novel. It consists of four parts, and every part has the chapter which gives additional meaning to the course of events. The plot is constructed in a particular style. In the act of narration, every character is in descriptive or in evaluating style, which gives additional significance and beauty to the plot. Mostly, the plot revolves around the family of Mir Nihal, representing on symbolical level the Muslim class present and past life. The novelist Ahmad Ali relates a person's tale in this novel that in the end looks alienated and apart from the surroundings, and all this happens only through his outdated attitude in the present conditions. Dear students, the whole story that has been told here is a very well knit story. It has been it is not a story that is ineffective in any way, although it has no chance happenings, although it has no big events in it, it has got no rifts of that kind you see in other writings, which are called some kind of very uh, outstanding events which may affect lives of some other people or community at large. But here, the smaller events, the smaller happenings, the smaller incidents have been knit in a very neat way to look like a very wholesome and a very effective story told in a narrative and descriptive way. Ahmad Ali has got the gift of knitting different stories into a single whole, and that is the main component of a good novel, making it look like a single whole out of making it look like a single whole out of different stories picked together as a single union, as a single unison point, you may say. Therefore, we may say that this novel has got a very well knit, a very balanced, and brilliantly constructed on the whole story that impresses us as readers and critics of literature. Dear students, Ahmad Ali has made his story look like an organic whole through his art of characterization, through his art of description, through his art of narration, and his expertise in storytelling. As you know, he was already familiar with the art of storytelling, as he was a very good writer of Urdu short stories, an exponent rather of the beginners of the Urdu short story writers at that period of history in the subcontinent. Therefore, he was able to utilize his abilities as a writer to convey his plot in shape of an organic whole in this very novel. Ahmad Ali has utilized his events of the story to construct an organic whole in the shape of plot of this novel. This thing tells us about his expertise in the field of novel writing or fiction writing. The novel under reference, that is Twilight in Dehli, has basically been designed by the writer to give us a rich glimpse of the Indian Muslim society, along with its customs, traditions, ways of living. This purpose has been achieved by the writer by taking a large number of characters from a span of only 9 to 10 years, the period of 11 to 1900. From the city of Delhi, only a single city has been picked as a sample, you may say, from among the Muslim population, and he has picked and targeted a single community from that city, a large city at that time, as it is not inside his goal to tell the readers anything about the Hindu society, so he does not include any Hindu character in the novel at all. So much so that even the Baniya, that is a particular Hindu character in origin, basically the moneylender of the subcontinent at that time of the novel, is Siddiq, a Muslim. Although mostly Hindus were the Baniyas, the moneylenders of the subcontinent at that time. That makes it the plot of this story a single whole, an organic whole. Each and every particle of, that is piece, particle of this story has been knit into an organic whole by sampling only and targeting only a single population, a single community, a single story, a single or singleized, that is to say, portion of a society. And it makes easier for the writer to enhance his impact of oneness, to enhance his impact of organic system, that is a living body of events, organism. Look like the story looks like a living organism indeed, due to this depiction of a specific and particular species of the living people at that moment of history. That is what makes the whole plot very neat, very organic, very well knit, very balanced, and artistically uh, presentable and refreshing indeed. Dear students, Ahmad Ali had many purposes in view while writing this novel. He is able to convey his purpose, his message through the realistic description, through the realistic presentation of events in this novel. His purpose of showing and demonstrating the decline, the downfall of the Muslim culture, his main idea of familiarizing the foreigners to the local culture, that is, he himself elaborated in his own way that his main aim was to familiarize the English people to the local customs, local traditions, local norms, and values and ways of living of the local people. Therefore, keeping in view his main purpose of exposing the causes of the decline of the Muslims in the subcontinent as a political power, as a socio-cultural power, and exposing and showing the drawbacks in his own way, depicting a Muslim family as a representative family at that very moment of history, and picking a special family out of not an ideal ideal family, you may say, from the Muslim community, but making it look like an interesting family from the reader's point of view, picking different stories which are knit around that family's own living style, its own way of thinking, its way of um, behaving towards outward world around, and that is what makes the plot purposeful, that makes it a realistic plot. It means that the writer has very beautifully been able to convey his purpose, to convey his message realistically through the plot of this story. That means Ahmed Ali has successfully interwoven his message into the plot, and that is a big achievement as a novel writer. The plot of Twilight in Delhi seems purposeful in every way. There are many characters and events only included in the novel to make the novel realistic and to give a true coloring to the Muslim Indian society as such. Nawab Putan is one of such characters. His character has nothing important to do with the advancement or progress of the story. Still, he is very important for the reasons that he is the representation of Nawabi culture, that is, and life. For giving complete a social picture of the Indian Muslim society, Ahmad Ali has told us in detail about Ramadan and the traditions of the holy month of Ramadan. He tells us a detail about how Eid is celebrated, and including that famous classical verse used at this occasion by numberless people. It is the day of Eid, my dear. Come, let me embrace thy ईद का दिन है, गले हमसे वो वाला शेर जो है. Dear students, Ahmed Ali is purposeful and a realistic picture of the life in Delhi, especially the Muslim community's life in Delhi, is the main thing in this plot construction. Mir Nihal in his 60s has a family, a mistress named Baban Jan, from whom he gets mental and sexual pleasure. He has a son, Asghar, a boy in his 20s, who has got the same kind of bent of mind He has got a family at home, but he goes to uh, a girl um, in a brothel who desperately wants to marry a girl, uh, Bilkis, when he sees her uh, attracted by her beauty, outward beauty, that is. His marriage takes place after a huge amount of resistance from Mir Nihal's side. In the background of these events, which is indeed the confrontation between father and son on the issue of a marriage, the boy wishes to marry a girl according to his own free will, but the father is adamant in allowing that marriage because of his orthodox view that the girl belongs to a lower strata of life, and this marriage should not take place, and he has already picked a girl from a higher strata of life for Asgar, and this type of conflict takes place. In the background of these events, which are uh, family events indeed, Ahmad Ali has portrayed a graphic picture of historical moments of violence and tyranny in this novel, and also the pathetic condition of Delhi on a very big scale and canvas. The marriage of Asghar is caught in a fiasco, and the relations between father and son and the whole family weaken day by day. And after Bilqis' death, the whole scenario changes abruptly. Asghar thinks himself responsible for her death, but Bilqis' younger sister Zohra again turns Asghar to the beauty of life. He is a fluctuating young man, as you have seen in between throughout your study of this novel. Zohra, a young girl full of charming and alluring beauty, again, just like her dead sister, fascinates him to marry her. But finally, nothing happens according to his desires. In the end, we see Mir Nihal as a paralyzed man who has faced many hard blows from fate, like death of his beloved Babanjan, death of his pigeons, and the end of his rule indeed in the family. All pathetic events leading to his own downfall, just like the downfall of the Muslim culture, as he is a representative of that culture. His wife, Begum Nihal, who has spent her life honestly and devotedly, is unable to retain happiness in Mir Nihal's life. Her blindness, that is on a literal meaning, the blindness, physical blindness, refers to her blindness as a wife to all the activities of her husband outside that very Mardana when he goes to some prostitutes, and again in the Mardana when he commits illegitimate extramarital relationships with the maid of the house. And this type of the realistic plot construction, purposeful plot construction, is the hallmark of this novel, which Ahmad Ali has achieved through his descriptions, character portrayals, and very well knit stories, minor stories, into a single whole. Dear students, in the background, the plot of the novel advances through the story of freedom struggle of the people of India and of the Indian Muslims. They want to get rid of the foreign rulers who have imposed imperialistic high-handedness on them, which is to say that they have snatched them of their glory, snatched them of their power, snatched them their freedom of every kind, that is. We read about the fall of Delhi and about the fateful time for Jamia Masjid Delhi as well as for the Muslims of Delhi. Jamia Masjid Delhi is also a symbol of the Muslim grandeur, as you know, the Muslim rule, the Muslim grandeur, cultural grandeur. We read about the fires burning petrol depots and the royal canopy at Delhi's Darbar before it was held. We read about rallies, processions, agitations, marches, and strikes, and non cooperation movements, and many other events. We read about the non cooperative movement, that is. So we see the advancement of the struggle for freedom going on in the background of the story of the novel, although it has not been brought to the front line by the writer intentionally, because his method of writing, his intention of writing of this novel was not to depict the main events of history, but he kept history in the background to make it interesting for the readers. But the thing is so well knit into the texture of the plot that we are ready to take it as an integral part of the main story. Although the history is not the target of the novelist, yet the historical events taking place here and there around the lives of these people have been told into the story, have been intertwined into the story in a beautiful way. The story, which started from the first section, shows every character's attitude and ordinary view about life. All the subsequent events end in the fourth part, where we get not only the conclusion but the actual condition that if they spend the same life, they shall not be able to retain themselves in the changing conditions of the present day. Dear students, the background of this whole story is surely the struggle for freedom by the local people. Both the Hindus and the Muslims in the beginning, you know very well, were united at one platform under the leadership of many great people. Even Qaid-e-Azam was the greatest supporter of Hindu-Muslim unity on the platform of All India Congress. But when All India Congress changed its stance and showed one-sidedness towards Hindus only, Qaid-e-Azam left All India Congress for good and joined All India Muslim League and became its main component to lead the Muslims to freedom. And that freedom movement, that ongoing struggle of the local peoples to get rid of the foreign rulers, is the background of this novel Ahmed Ali has presented for us as a story. Although I have already discussed it, that this historical happenings, this great historical movement has not been depicted and portrayed on the forefront of the novel, yet it provides a very colorful and a very pathetic background to the events in the main story of this novel and affects surely its characters, its persona on the whole. And that is the singleness of the plot that is enhanced by these historical perspectives of the novel as well. Dear students, whatever we may say about the plot or its drawbacks or faults, although it was an early attempt of Ahmed Ali, the first attempt of Ahmed Ali on a big scale, on a larger scale, telling a story in a new style, in a new format. He had already been telling stories in a short way in Urdu, but this was his first attempt. Therefore, there are surely many drawbacks. There are some irrelevancies you may find here and there. There are some intrusions of thought somewhere. There are too many poetic references and poetic quotations, the couplets from Urdu, and their explanations in the sections of the story. But apart from these drawbacks and other faults of the novel, we have the impression that on the whole the plot is cohesive, the plot is compact, the plot is well balanced, very well knit, artistically knit indeed. Whatever be the criticism, the plot on the whole is compact. There is very little irrelevant or unnecessary detail. Even the smallest details promote the action produce the necessary atmosphere and fulfill the purpose of the novel. The concentration on the main theme is well maintained throughout the novel to achieve the desired impact. All the strings are gathered at the end to give the final touch, the final exposition. Thus, the plot construction in Twilight and Dehli is nothing but very, very remarkable. There can be arguments that the plot has some drawbacks or loose ends, but it was never easy to pack a fastly changing culture in limited pages. And Ahmed Ali's realistic technique in describing the actual conditions is not only brilliant but also shows his precision in every way. Thus, we may conclude with the remarks that the plot construction of this novel is cohesive, is compact, is wholesome. It is the realistic representation of the life of that times. The plot itself has got its message conveyed very, very artistically, very, very beautifully. The whole message has been interwoven into the texture of the story, and that makes it a very good, very balanced, very well knit plot. That is why we often compare this novel to Heart of Darkness, to Ashibe's novel about Africa and imperialism. Thus, you may compare this novel to any great novel of that time, at that moment of history, uh, from the point of view of its plot construction, of its artistry, that is to say. Thank you very much, dear students, for participating in this session. Till the next session, it is Allah Hafiz. Goodbye.